Hello, LifeWave family. My name is Garrett Johnson, and I am the US and Canada General Manager here at LifeWave. And it is my pleasure and my privilege to be on our LifeWave Connect business webinar in February. We are so excited about everything that's happening right now. We just got back from an incredible cruise to the Bahamas. For those from our North America as well as our EMEA teams all came together for that trip. And it was absolutely fantastic to be able to spend that time with everyone, get to a little bit warmer climate. And of course, today here in Utah, we are in a blizzard. So very cold. So coming into that is not necessarily fun, but certainly part of just where we live. But what an incredible experience it's been to be able to spend that time with some of our leaders and to be able to share in those experiences. We just want to congratulate everyone who qualified for that. And for those of you who are pushing for our next incentive trip for North America, it's going to be in Hawaii. Every region has their own. Has their own is a location that they're heading to, but this is the last week to qualify. So make sure you're pushing hard all the way to the end to get your 75 points. And if you can get there, you'll be qualified to be able to go. And of course, if you're well past that, you can certainly continue to go and get more of the your trip covered by LifeWave. And of course, that's always a great way to have your expenses covered for those type of trips. Absolutely amazing. But it is a really exciting time right now, and I'm really excited about the topic that we're going to be discussing today. And I'm also very excited to be able to have our guest presenter today, who's going to be sharing with us. This is someone who has actually been absolutely amazing in my experience since I've been here. Had a chance to work with her over on a number of different things. But one of the experiences I had with her was one that where there was a natural disaster that came through. It hit Florida, but it seemed like it had more of an impact on the North and South Carolina. And she was so instrumental in helping get supplies to the right people at the right time and working with LifeWave to make sure we're able to do that. And so to see her heart and her desire to be able to just help people in general, but to also know that she's doing this to be able to help people improve their health, improve their income, and just the different ways in which she's committed to being able to help others is really shows her heart and her commitment to just doing the things that are necessary to help make the world a better place. So want to bring on Alicia Osborn. Alicia, thanks for being on with us. Oh, yeah, there we
There
go.
we
Now
go.
you're
Hi,
muted.
Garrett. I wasn't prepared for that nice intro and little memory of working with Hurricane Helene.
Yeah.
Uh, it's been over a year ago. A little update on that as well here in the Carolinas that was impacted so hard, and some of the work that LifeWave was instrumental in providing patches to the first responders first on the scene, but also in providing money and supplies. There are people just now almost getting ready to move into their homes. Almost 16
Mm.
months later after that disaster, but know that everything that LifeWave did, not only the supplies, but the finances and the prayers have meant so much. But honestly, I got an update yesterday, and so that was super exciting. They've almost got their COs to get in the house, so it's pretty
Well,
exciting.
that is exciting. I mean, it's sad it's taken as long as it has, obviously, but to know that process is now almost to completion is definitely very exciting, and it's such a devastating impact that it's had in certain that part of the country. And so thank you obviously for your incredible efforts in helping the people in that area. But also thank you for being on with us today to be able to talk about this topic, which is sharing naturally, how to talk about LifeWave. And I think that's the key is finding a way to actually share naturally, a way to so that it comes off comfortably and it's comfortable for you, it's comfortable with the people you're talking with. It doesn't feel forced or any or uncomfortable really. But before we start jumping into that, I know that everyone always loves to kind of find out a little bit more about each of our presenters. So, Alicia, do you mind maybe just sharing us a little bit about, why you're here at LifeWave?
Oh, of course. I love sharing and thank you. So I was given the gift, let's call it what it is, the gift of LifeWave almost 5 years ago when a friend of mine who I had known from another company called me and told me about a seminar that she had attended in Sarasota, Florida, where she actually got to meet David Smith, our owner and founder and inventor. And she had been made aware and had been along with me on a journey of some health challenges that I had been through. And she said, Alicia, when I attended that seminar and I heard the testimonials, I immediately thought of you. And I thought the patches would be a great solution for you. So she called me and I became excited about the possibilities. And I did take 24 hours to dig around and do some of my own research, but then I immediately ordered. And that was May of 2021. And I've been patching ever since. And I am a mom of two daughters and a grandmother. I call myself Lolly. I'm a Lolly to two amazing granddaughters. And also through my LifeWave journey of the past 5 years, I've gotten remarried and have an amazing husband. And we are newlyweds in the LifeWave journey as well. Celebrated with many of our LifeWave other brand partners on a trip to the Dominican Republic last year. So that was part of just the experience of joining this company that I'm so eternally grateful for.
I do remember that when having that the timing just worked out well to be able to have you guys be there with us right after your wedding, and so what an incredible experience that was, and of course getting to celebrate that with you as always was amazing also. And but that's the beauty of this, right? I mean, I love hearing that it was a friend who was sitting at a seminar and that literally just thought of you because of the experience they had with you, because the things that they knew that you were dealing with. And then it just then it was like I need to make that phone call, and because you already had that relationship and you'd already built that connection with that person, I'm assuming from, like you said, a previous company, it made that conversation probably easier than it would have been had she never known you before, right?
All right, absolutely. We had an easy conversation, that was for sure.
But I think it also, and I think that's the one of the keys to this is something you said there, and that is when she shared it with you, it was out of caring and concern for you that she wanted you to experience it. And of course, you had to do your own due diligence, which is true for most people. But I love that it was out of the concern for you that she's actually reaching out. It's not because she's thinking, oh, I'm hoping that maybe this will be a good start to my business. But she's like, oh, I was in the seminar and I just was immediately think of you. And I think that kind of really kind of sets the tone for what we really want to talk about, and that sharing naturally. So when you first started sharing LifeWave, so you've gotten the patches, you've had your own experience, and you're wanting to say, I really want to start sharing this. Um, what kind of helped shift you kind of from that idea of selling versus just helping to share your experience? And maybe that happened right up front, or maybe it didn't. But what was that experience like for you?
Well, the first thing that I will tell you is I told that person, I am not going to sell this product ever. Okay. I want to be sure that I was clear with her and clear with you. But obviously, we all know the results with the patches are too good for us not to share. But it was an easy transition because I really never started selling. I just wanted to share my story of what the patch had done for me. And that's really all we have to do is just share what the patch does for us or those that we love that are using the product. And that also, by just sharing instead of selling, takes the pressure off of you, not having to be a salesperson. And then it also takes the pressure off the person that's listening. You know, Laura didn't call me to sell me the patches. She called me to share with me a solution that I really needed. And I am grateful for that. So we see the other people out there that lead with LifeWave's business opportunity and the amazing income and the opportunity that it does provide. But I still feel strongly that the foundation needs to be leading with the stories of the lives that are changed by the product. I mean, that is what is impactful. That's what is going to stand the test of time. That's what's going to move people. And that's really, well, that's the real. Income might get attention, but the stories create belief, and that is what is going to keep the funnel flowing.
I love that. And it's interesting because we have someone who obviously knows you in the chat here that's saying they know your story and that, they kind of the impact that it's had on your life. Isn't just a small little, just a, oh, it may help my nails grow better, it's not that story. You
No.
know, it had a massive impact, but I think that's really the key to a lot of it is just it's that story. It's how we present it and how we share it that really, makes a big difference. So how do you explain what you do in a way that feels natural? It just like an everyday conversation.
Well, the main thing for me with our product is to keep things super simple. Um, you know, Nobody ever wants to be sold anything, but they do want help. And most of the people that I would say all of us talk to have never heard about our product. And our product can be really techy. I mean, we're a technology company. So I just try to share as if we were friends sharing a coffee, and I'm sitting and offering them some great advice. I don't start or lead with the patents or the studies or the innovation or the science behind it or the compensation plan. Even though all of that stuff is great, I want to lead on how it can impact them. So instead of leading with complexity, just think about leading with a little bit of heart, hope, and clarity. Now, if that opens the door and they get curious, that's when you just push through and share a little bit more. And that's when you can start dripping in the technology, based on the wearable phototherapy, and then we're backed by patents and the research. I don't start there, but we get there eventually, and I think that is what makes it real natural. And also letting the person that you're talking to lead the conversation a little bit, always letting them guide, but realize people don't connect with technology. They're going to connect with the stories. So starting there.
I like that. And I think that that last little bit you just said there, sometimes we find ways where we'll use technology to try to get to people more regularly, but you can't let the technology take over the conversation. It has to be a conversation, right? You have to have that personal touch. Otherwise, they can't quite understand. It's like I understand how AI, let's just use that as an example. Using that technology can sometimes simplify the process as far as trying to come up with what's the right thing to say for maybe the right person. But if you're only relying specifically on just that and not actually personalizing it and making it more you, then you might be missing the boat. So I do like that idea that it is a conversation and it should be a conversation, not between you and an AI, but between you and someone who actually cares about. But don't get me wrong, I use AI all the time, but mostly for
I
the
do too.
purposes to make sure that here's the thing. I feel like I'm a pretty good writer. I'm pretty good at some of those things, but it's like as soon as I go to ChatGPT or another source and type it in, this is my idea, and then it comes back out, I'm thinking, oh, okay, it is a little bit better than what I had. But it's not to eliminate what my part of it, right? So it's all about making sure we're staying keeping that connection, and certainly we can simplify and speed that process up using different technology, but we will never be able to take out the personal relationship. That's part of it that really does connect people to it. Okay, so
Absolutely.
what would you say then is what mindset helps you stay authentic then when talking about the business or the products?
Well, I'm going to give away my heart and give away my motto right now because this is super important to me. And it goes back to something that came through with dealing with my diagnosis and everything I went to. It's my motto: no matter your circumstances, you deserve victory. And that became my motto, not just for my health, but for my life and my business. And it's so perfectly fit into when we're sharing LifeWave, because I'm not coming from hype or pressure. I'm coming from a place of belief. I know what it feels like to face circumstances that, you don't choose. People don't choose all of their circumstances in life. And I know what it feels like to need that hope. And I truly believe that I feel like I deserved a victory in my life, but we also need to also realize that our clients deserve that victory too. They deserve the hope. They deserve the options. They deserve the support. They deserve that path forward, no matter what they're walking through. And, we have the ability to give them that. So when you talk about the products or the opportunity, don't try and just convince someone. You're trying to just instill that belief and give the strength and the direction with the product and with the business, that all of this is possible for them too. So we talk about, that's kind of the mindset that can keep me grounded, that I went through that journey, but now I have the ability through my test to give that testimony to someone else that needs that journey as well. Because again, no matter the circumstances, everybody deserves um, a victory. And so that mindset has to stay first and foremost in my mind in all the times that I'm sharing, no matter what level, with a brand new person that I meet, or an established team member, or to an audience.
I love that. Now, the questions actually come up. They want you to repeat that line that you used.
Okay,
Okay.
so this is my motto, and I'm giving it away today for free. This is for everybody to take my life motto here. No matter your circumstances, you deserve victory. No matter your circumstances, you deserve victory.
Love that. And I think that is, I think if people really believe that, then when they have a chance to actually see something like this, they're more open, to actually taking a look at, what we have to share, because ultimately, it- and I think we could use you as an example of this, right? And we're trying to be very generic here with regards to what your challenges were, because we're trying to be compliant. But it was a pretty significant change in your life, due to what the patches were able to do for you. Um, and so, knowing the kind of impact it's had on you and in your personal life, how has that shaped how you share and tell others about it?
Oh my goodness. So it creates, I mean, Garrett, if it was possible to stand on the rooftops and shout it out and be excited, and joyful and grateful all at the same time, that's what's shaped in my life. But uh, obviously you can't always do that. So I just feel so empowered. I don't speak from theory. I don't speak from hype or education. I just speak from experience. How crazy is it that I was dealing with this stuff in my life? A friend called me, shared. I bought a patch, I put it on my body, and now everything has changed. And so how do you form that? So it's important for me to remember and to remind others just to keep that excitement, keep that passion alive, and just to keep the main thing the main thing. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every week. I just have to remember the basics. And as we navigate through our business, and as people get started, they've been here for a while, they're always looking for the new and the best way to share what our product is or what it does, when we just really need to remember, you know, what worked for us in the beginning. So how's it shaped me? I've gone through highs and lows of my journey with LifeWave in the last 4.5, almost 5 years, but I just have to remember to keep it fresh, and that everybody just wants that little bit of expectation of hope and belief for themselves.
I love that, and I think the idea of keeping it fresh, I think, is really important. So, what do you do, to try to keep it fresh so it doesn't sound like it's always scripted. It's because it's easy to be able because here's the thing. I spent about a year, as a distributor for another network marketing company where I was building a team. And sometimes you get your statement down or your story down, and you're very comfortable saying it, but you don't want it to come off as just like a script, like I'm reading off a script. So what do you do to kind of keep it fresh, which you say is important, but how do you do it?
Yeah, I know because the story doesn't change, the
Hmm.
storyteller doesn't change, and one of the things you always need to remember is 80% of your audience is always going to be new. So tell the same story. It's okay. Just tell the same story. It's okay. You don't have to change it. You don't have to reinvent it. You don't have to do something different every time because 80% of your audience is always going to be new. Another thing that I think is really important, and I know you and I've talked about this before, I'm a pastor, a missionary's daughter, and I think it's super important that we understand the method of storytelling. And if you will just look at the greatest storyteller of them all, Jesus, you know, he rarely led with the doctrine. He didn't lead with the details. He led with stories and parables. And he made them relatable, and then he would finish with a big shift or transition. And that's what people want to hear. They want to hear what your life was like before you started patching. They wanted to know how it felt while you were patching. And now they want to hear what life is like after you've started or after you've been using the patch. So those three easy, what was life like before? What's it like what's it feel like when it's on you? And then what's life like now? And so telling those 3 points, now you can expand on those 3 points and lead with emotion, not information. You know, there's only 25% of the population that wanted to know that only 25% of the population is detail thinkers. People really connect. There's what's that saying? The facts educate, but emotion connects. People don't remember technical details. They remember how the story made them feel. So we're leading with that emotion. And then you want to also see how you can twist your story as well to make it about them. See if you can tell the story so powerful that it isn't focused on me, but make it relatable that they could say, oh my goodness, that could have been me, or that could have been my daughter, that could have been my sister, that could have been my mother. And then after you share that experience, bring that bridge, cross the bridge back to the listener. And words when you're sharing or statements that you could say, maybe you felt that way too. Or if you've ever faced something unexpected like I did. Or I realized I wasn't the only one needing hope. When other people can see themselves in your story, it stops being just a story and it becomes an invitation, it becomes real. And then, that final, share the shift, share the transformation, end strong. It's not just about the struggle, it's about the overcoming. The magic is in the shift. You did this, so what changed? What's improved? Give them an exciting end. Give them that transformation. Share the victory that they deserve. Share that victory and encourage their mind, to raise possibilities. You're telling your story about your victory, but open it up enough that they know that their victory is possible as well.
I love that. And I think that's the idea of hope, right? You're giving him that little bit of hope. I've heard us like brand partners here at LifeWave being called hope dealers. That's
I
what we're
love
really
that.
doing is helping them feel hope, that there's hope for a better life or a better way of life because of what, LifeWave has to offer. And that could be a number of different things depending on what they're looking for. That's why asking the questions or sharing your story, it becomes so important to them because then they start to say, okay, how can this help me? And then hopefully the questions naturally come out, and then you can, then you get to, answer the questions and, based off of that. And so, as you go through this process, and you have, kind of just your day to day, experiences. Go to the grocery store. You go um, to get gas, or any number of things that you're maybe out doing about in your normal day to day lives. I remember, and I think I mentioned this to you, and that was when I was out kind of sharing this, when I first started trying to share this with people as a brand partner. I was I always had this feeling like I need to be talking to someone. I need to be talking to someone, almost like I was this pressure, to be, who am I going to talk to next? And it made it so that it was almost a stress to me, which I guarantee was, it became that to whoever else I was talking to, right? And over time, I realized the more comfortable I am, about sharing it, the more comfortable they'll be in hearing it, And so, what are some simple ways that you naturally bring up LifeWave in just your day-to-day life?
Oh yeah. So it is the day life, but it starts before you get out of bed. Okay. Set your intention to share and start your day with gratitude and ask God who He wants to cross your path today. I mean, that's the first and foremost thing you have to do. And then get dressed and put your patch on and put it somewhere where somebody can see it. Because maybe, just maybe, if it's on your hand or on your wrist, I know Gary Superman wears his right here by his ear. We see a lot of people wearing them right here on their chest. Put your patch on where someone might naturally just ask you, hey, what's that? And what a beautiful open door for you to start sharing. But of course, you can just tie it into what's already happening. Most people that are in our company don't do this full time. They have full time other lives. So you work it into what's happening naturally already in your life already, whether that's in the carpool line, whether it's at your work or your office or your place of volunteering or wherever you happen to be. Um, just bring it out also in conversation where those natural conversations would be taking place. If someone were to say, I'm so exhausted, you know, immediately what comes to mind, what could you share with them if someone were to open the door to you and say, I'm so exhausted? I mean, that is your path to start sharing right there and what the patch could do for someone that is exhausted. Maybe someone is just curious and they see you on social media or they see you wearing the patch or they see you going on cool trips and cruises and going to Hawaii and different places, and someone brings up, what is this that you're doing? Let the curiosity play a role and that be an open door to, sharing more about the product and the business. Use social proof in conversation. And when I say social proof, third party verification would be a better term for that. You know, I love when people ask me to share my story to one of their friends because they're using my story instead of their story to their friend, where they could have shared my story themselves, but they're using me as a third party verification. And that really keeps the pressure off of them, and it gives the person that is being talked to just kind of a little sense of, hey, this is a really big deal. It gives people a sense that this is a way bigger product and possibility of something great than I might not have ever thought about. Another thing naturally that you can do and people really appreciate in conversation is ask permission. If we will ask permission to share, this one instantly removes pressure. Would you be interested in hearing about something that I've been doing? And when people say yes, that gives an energy shift immediately, and it's an invitation, not an interruption. And so asking for that little permission, can I share something with you? It's just a great, easy way to flow into telling more about our products and the opportunity with LifeWave.
I like that. And you know, and that's the thing too, when you ask permission, if they give it to you, they gave you permission. So it's open book, you can start sharing. And then that's the thing I think is beautiful about it. I love what, how you said that it really starts before you get out of bed, asking yourself, what is my intention? I set your intention to share at the beginning of each day. And I really like that because then it opens you up to when they're where you can be guided almost to people who might need to hear what you're saying. And I know we didn't discuss this, but do you have any experiences where maybe you did feel guided, to somebody? And what was that experience like?
Oh my goodness. Well, let's start with I will tell you the days that I ask God to show me and direct me in the ways, and the days that I don't, it is a clear difference. There are days, when I forget to say, God, who am I supposed to help today? And they don't show up. But the days that I ask, we ask, and you knock, and the doors are going to be answered. But um, here, let me give you an example of a networking group situation, and this might not be what you're asking for, but I want to tell you I have just recently, for the first time ever, joined a referral networking group, and it's quite interesting. It's quite fun. Getting married, I moved to a new town. I don't know a lot of the people here, and so I thought it was also a great opportunity to meet other people. And with networking groups, the beginning of each meeting, every person in the group has 60 seconds that they get to go around the room and introduce themselves and the product that they're telling about or sharing or selling. And so this was quite new to me, and I was nervous. And so I thought about, what am I going to say about this product? And how am I going to introduce myself in this product? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to be intentional. God, who needs this product? And then the download was, everybody needs this product. I mean, who can we think of that doesn't need this product? Everybody needs this product. So here's how I started at my networking group. I said, hi, you guys. My name is Alicia Osborn. I am a brand partner with LifeWave Global, and I am the easiest referral that you're ever going to give because everybody needs what I have. So you might as well go ahead and give me your business card right now. We're going to do business together. And over half of the people in that room have done business with me so far, and I'm still working on the other half. So it's kind of intentional, exciting.
Yeah. Well, and I think that opens up the mindset up to where it's not just a one or two. Like, I'd be happy with just one person in the room. No, I mean, and of course, the feedback to you was no, it's everybody. And that, which sometimes it opens our mind a little bit more than where we're necessarily ready for it to go. But obviously God has different plans,
That's
which
right.
is fantastic. So how do you handle it though? So okay, you've had a chance to maybe share this with a number of people, but how do you handle it when they don't show interest or they're not really ready to take action?
Yeah, so that does happen. Again, we're a technology company. We're also this company that has been around for 22 years, but people say all the time, how have I not heard of this before? I mean, we hear that quite often. And I felt the same way. How had I not ever heard about this company before? But the main thing is to keep the communication going and don't force the conversation, but listen for opportunities. And that needs to go with another great 80-20 rule in sales. And that is, we need to listen 80% of the time and only talk 20% of the time. And of that 20% of the time that we are actually talking to someone, 10% of that needs to be in questions, and not just a couple of questions, but really great intentional questions. And then just being quiet and not being afraid to pause and let people process and formulate a response. So when they're not ready, I just want to keep feeding them testimonials. I want to keep feeding them with encouragement. And sometimes it takes people months, if not years. I am having people that I have known for over 20 years of my life that have watched my journey for the last 4.5 years using the product, being very open, being very vocal about what it's done for myself and other members in my family. And they're just now coming to the plate because they're gaining trust. And people will purchase and people will follow people that they trust. So sometimes you might have to build that trust with someone, and that can take time. But continue to be very open, continue the communication, and continue listening, and continue asking questions and not giving up on anybody ever. Because the last thing you want to do is give up on someone and drop the ball and then hear later that they ordered from someone else that didn't give up or was the next person in line. And the other thing, as we do become, I said so many people have not heard of our company, but more and more people are. And I will say, as LifeWave continues to get stronger and stronger, we're seeing a lot of presence right now with a lot of big name athletes using our product, a lot of celebrities using our product, with the upcoming documentary that's going to be released on our product. People are going to be hearing LifeWave more and more. So you need to be the go-to person in your town for LifeWave. You need to be so loud. You need to be so proud. You need to be so consistent with your message of what we can do to help people, that when someone thinks of LifeWave, they also need to think of your name in that same sentence. So maybe they don't want the product at this time, but what if their friend has an issue and she goes, "Oh, well, maybe you should call Alicia about that. I've seen her talking about these patches." So you need to be thought of immediately. And how do you do that? With consistency, of just showing up, being loud and proud, and just keeping the conversations going.
I love that. And I think that the consistency is always the key. The more consistent you are, the more people will be like, okay, this is if I have a question about this, I know who I'm going to, which I think is very powerful. I'm also seeing here in the chat that, saying how asking questions and be talking to people is hard for them. Another one was saying this presentation is perfect for me, because I'm a bit shy. So what kind of advice would you give to someone who's maybe a little bit more nervous about maybe talking to people for the first time?
Oh my goodness. Well, first, I'm going to tell you it's totally normal and it's okay. Okay. And there's so many reasons that we can maybe be hesitant. But here's the first thing that I would ask you. Are you not so, so grateful and so, so glad that somebody shared with you? And are you not so, so grateful and so glad that maybe somebody was really persistent to get you to try the product? Or that they were that loud and proud and bold person that made it catch your eye, that made you ask questions. So we first need to just analyze that you need to be that person sometimes when it's not comfortable. I'll tell you something that I've always told my girls, my kids, is, good things come easy, great things take some effort. Great things take some effort. So realize too that most people are not nervous about the products. You feel good about these products, or you wouldn't be putting it on your body every day. You wouldn't be telling some people about the product. You're not nervous about the products. You're nervous about being judged. You don't want to be pushy, and you are scared of damaging relationships. So you got to erase all that out of your brain. You've got to just get rid of all of that, again, because you've got to know what you're doing is great. It's not just good, it's great. And know too that you're not selling, you're not convincing, we're still sharing. Back to the very first thing that we talked about. We're just sharing something that has helped you. And now you're just going to talk about it. And remember, again, what we talked about in the beginning, just keep it simple. You don't have to understand the entire compensation plan. We've got booklets for that. We've got trainings for that. You don't need to explain the technology. We've got videos for that. And you don't need the perfect script. just share somebody else's testimony. Again, if you're nervous about it, pull in that third party verification person, like I was sharing about just a minute ago. If you find someone that's interested, then ask one of your uplines, your sidelines, someone in your organization that is really confident. Say, would you jump on a call with me? I have a girlfriend or I have a coworker that is interested in the patch, and I'm not really sure what is the best fit for her. Bring in that third party verification and just start there. So don't feel at all nervous. Just get past that hurdle because know that you deserve the victory and the person that you're talking to deserves the victory. But in order to get to that victory line, you're going to have to just start sharing as much as you can. And as you start sharing, you'll get more and more experience and you'll get more and more confident in doing so.
I love that, and I think that is so key. Is just keep sharing. I think it's Ralph Waldo Emerson who made the statement. That which we persist in doing becomes easy to do. Not because the nature of the thing has changed, but that the power to do has increased. Meaning, the more we do it, the easier it becomes, and the better we get at it. And so I love that. Just staying consistent with it. And
Yeah,
doing it over and over
consistency kills. I mean,
again.
fear gets smaller, you guys. Fear will get smaller and smaller as your confidence grows. And here's what's really exciting. When you share more, you'll have more victories. Those text messages and those messages in the morning of people having amazing results will come more and more, and that will build your confidence. And it's simple. It's just easy, simple math. And the more you share, the more victories you're going to have.
I love that. And I think and you touched on this earlier as well as just now, and that idea of consistency, as we focus on doing what we consider call like the income producing activities. We're sharing it, we're creating a list, we're adding people to our list, we're doing all those things. And of course, this presentation in particular specifically around the idea of starting those conversations and having those. But how do you stay consistent so that every single day there's a little bit of time spent doing that, trying to add to that list of people that you can work with?
Well, I am a list maker and I've even devised my own little list here. I have a weekly checklist that I list all of the business activities that I need to do for myself every week, my personal to-dos every week, my prospects, my team member focus. I also have on this what is my current book or audio for personal development I'm working on, and then what are my personal enrollment goals for the week, my income goal for the week, my rank goal for the week, and then in any other thing like contest points or what I have going on. So I'm definitely to stay consistent and to stay focused. I'm a list maker. But then in working with people and continuing my business and my passion for sharing about LifeWave and working with people, I just want to continue to build trust and to listen to people and get myself in front as many people as possible. And so I'm constantly looking for new ways to get in front of people. And it's real easy to try and hide behind the computer and stay at home, or just go spend time with my granddaughters. That's easy. That's comfort. That's where I like to be. But I am looking for those opportunities, like going to the networking events, finding expos or trade shows or vendor events where I can share, or asking friends and family members if they would invite me into their home to share with two or three different people that might be interested in the product. I love working with teachers after school, and if they would invite two or three other teachers in to hear about the product. And then building trust in the community. I also work and do multiple different volunteer projects through the community and on a state level. So I want people to know that I'm not someone they don't know or they can't find. I want to be someone that they can find and trust, because our product is something that they can find and trust. At the end of the day, I know I say that it's important to be loud and proud and bold, but at the end of the day, it's not the people that listen to the loudest voice. They're going to listen to the people that they can trust. And trust isn't always just with the science. I know people like to get in and read those patents and um, hear the testimonials and how GHKCU works and those kind of things. And it's built by consistency and the authenticity that that we have as the brand partners and sharing and trying to help other people. And people start calling me because they trust me because a friend of theirs is hurting or in need and they want me to reach out to their friend, and that's how you want to stay consistent without feeling pushy or overwhelmed in other people and building that trust. So I use the products consistently, publicly. I continue to share honestly and don't exaggerate. Oh, something else that I can do and that I would say is super important. I admit it when I don't know something. If I don't know the answer to something, I'm like, I don't know. And like you said a minute ago, we can try to find it on AI or we can go to someone that knows better. Or, and just show up. Consistently show up. That's super important too. Um, just showing up in the community, showing up with the people that you're working with, and just showing up with your team as well.
I love that. And I think, yeah, I think the one thing I love about what you just said is that key of trust. If they trust you, then and it's you that they have to trust, right? Because you're right. We can say, do they trust the products? Do they trust the business? Do they trust those things? Those things come over time, but if they trust you, that's what's going to get them to actually be willing to try it and get and to take that I guess step of faith into the darkness that they don't know or understand. Because the reality is, a lot of people don't understand the technology. This idea that I can put a little patch on me, I didn't. I mean, I will admit I was a little skeptical, and I was even working for the company at the time, but I didn't like, only because I didn't know. Obviously, that it was my first few days, and they're teaching me the technology, and I'm going, huh? You know, light. How does this work? And so understanding how that amazing light reflects back into the body and the magical things that happen for the body to be the miracle it's always meant to be, I think is quite amazing. But it's in sharing that. Yes, it's maybe not well understood by a lot of people, but when they trust you, that's when they're going to say, okay, it doesn't really matter what the technology is. I trust you, and if you're telling me this is what I need, I'm going to do it. And so that's really what it come where the I guess the rubber meets the road for all intents and purposes is understanding you and that, and they always say, you're always selling yourself first, and then of course the rest comes naturally. Well, so as we've gone through this, there's been a number of different questions that have come up from a few people on the chat. Are you okay if we go through some of these questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so one of them is, and this is very common, and so I'm sure that this is not something I bet you've heard before, but the question is, how do you deal with someone who has price as an objection?
Oh my goodness. Well, okay. So I have to do this compliant as well. Um, I believe that LifeWave has done an excellent job with the way that we can offer the product. And let's just talk about just X39, for example, with the ability to start retail with our product US for X39 at 149.95, but start there. And people have an objection to that. We really want them to become a PC Plus or a brand partner anyway. Then we can share with them, oh, but we have so many affordable options for you. We want you to be able to use this product. And so I'm going to offer it to you at the same wholesale price that I pay as a brand partner. We have two other ways for you to purchase. Which one of these ways suits into your budget the best, and then share both the PC program and then the brand partner pricing to them that way. People sometimes just want options and choices instead of being just told one price. So I have found that people that truly are concerned about a health concern or have a goal in their life will find the way to afford the product when the need is real, and then just offer them choices instead of just one option, and typically that overcomes any of the obstacles with the pricing.
I love that. And that certainly is something that we, oftentimes what we find too is their objection for price is the easiest way of saying, trying to say no. When maybe there's other issues, they're just using price as the reason when it may sometimes the price isn't the reason. But it's the easiest
I
one to explain.
I am a woman, and I will tell you, if there is something I want bad enough, it doesn't matter how much it is, we figure it out. So
Yeah, that's
if you
exactly
want it
right.
bad enough, you figure it out. If you need it bad enough, you will figure it out. And so I will also say, in when you are sharing our pricing and sharing the products to people, I typically share three options, price A, B, or C. And I also share with that, I say most people choose option B, whatever that middle one is, whatever that target one is. That, for example, if you're trying to sell advance packs, let the advance pack be that middle one that you're trying to sell, and say most people choose the advanced pack because, and the psychology of the sale states that most people want to be like most people. And if you tell them what most people have done, that's what they're going to do as well. So recommend what most people do, and that's what your clients most times will also do.
I love that. Great, yeah, a great part of the psychology of how people work, and that is true though. It is very true. Another question here, actually, they want you to repeat what you said at your networking group.
Oh,
That got them all interested. It sounds like there's some that want to possibly use that in the future.
I say, hi, you guys. I am Elise, and you can use my name and my information if you'd like to. No, hi, you guys. I'm Alicia Osborn. I am with, I am a brand partner with LifeWave Global, and I am the easiest referral you are ever going to give. Everybody needs our product. So, and then you can take it from there, however you want to go with it.
Yeah.
And what I normally do, because it is a recurring meeting, is after that, and I'm with a lot of the same people. We meet weekly, and we're with a lot of the same people every week. I'll say a quick one or two line testimony. Just in this past week, I've helped Sunny with da 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 da, and because they started patching, and I've helped Garrett with da 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 since he started patching, and they're loving this product. I know you're going to do as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, and obviously it's resonated with some people because that's why they're wanting to hear it again. I want to touch on one thing, and let's just talk compliance for a couple of seconds here, because compliance is important because we want to protect the company, but it also is important to know when and where is to be when and where you can share certain things and maybe not share certain things. So, there we have we would consider kind of a public space and then a private space. Public space is social media. It's a webinar like the one we're on, where we have hundreds of people on watching this webinar. If we're in a big large meeting and we're presenting at a meeting, those types of things, anything that would be considered public or could be recorded or maybe is being put online somewhere, those would all be considered public spaces. So we have to be cautious and careful how we share our stories. And being compliant, which is why, of course, Alicia, you've done amazing. Trying to be as compliant as you can, and but also knowing that when you're one on one, if you're talking to someone in the line at the grocery store, and nobody's recording that. And so being able to share your story is going to be something where it's going to be a little bit easier. You don't have to worry so much about making sure you're using the correct compliant words. Now you don't go crazy, of course, and make all kinds of, crazy claims that may be true. Don't get me wrong, they may be true, but it can still could be considered almost too good to be true, I guess, if that, for lack of a better term. But also, but being, we can be a little bit more open in those circumstances, right? When it's more one-on-one, more of a private, environment. And so just wanting to touch on that a little bit, just because I know that's a question that comes up a lot is how do we know? Where do we go? How do we make sure that we're doing, the right thing? And of course, I think for the most part, most people do want to do and say the right thing. Sometimes it's not quite sure knowing what that is, but certainly being comfortable sharing your story when it's a one-on-one basis is something I think we can all have a little bit more confidence in, when it's just, in an individual, and also being open to, and it's something you kind of mentioned, and I have a funny story where someone that I was working with, and this was actually with a previous company, but she had dropped her keys and they had somehow rolled under her car, and she was trying to get down underneath the car, but she was wearing a mini skirt. And so it wasn't in an environment where she felt comfortable just climbing underneath the car. And so she's trying to do it as modestly as she could. And she just couldn't get there without, afraid that, and it was a very busy parking lot. And so finally a gentleman walks up and happens to notice that she's having a struggle here. And he asks if he can help. And of course, she says, "Oh, that would be amazing. I'm sorry, it's kind of underneath the car. You're gonna have to kind of get underneath there a little bit to get to the keys." And she did, and he did. He got underneath there, and as he was standing up, she had the impression that he was put there in her path that day because she needed to share something with him. And her comment to him was, she thanked him profusely because she's like, I was afraid I would expose myself too much or something if I just tried climbing underneath there myself. So thank you so much. But she says things don't happen by accident. There's a reason why that you came to help me. Now I want to help you. And because of that, he ended up, joining and became but part of her business. But it's those little things like that, thing you just don't know when those opportunities are going to arise, and making sure you take every opportunity. And I saw that's why when you said that, when you have set the intention when you be, as before you get out of bed, I'm going to share this today. And of course, I think that can go a long way. So thank you for sharing
I
that.
call what you I call what you just talked about divine appointment.
Hmm.
I believe in divine appointments and they are orchestrated all the time. And we just need to have the awareness that that is a divine appointment. The lady could have just been frustrated and rushed and said, "Oh, thank you," and the man gone off. But no, she took that opportunity and realized that that divine appointment was that those two people met for a reason.
Yeah.
And I believe that, and I don't know how to tell this. Let me, you said I was doing good. So when I was facing the health battle that I faced, you guys, that was so scary, and I would go to bed at night and just cry, just weep. Why God? Why me? Why now? And I never really understood until about 2 years ago. And that is when I got to meet someone that had started using our patches, that had not been verbal before, that had not been able to play baseball before, that had not been able to ride a bike before. But because this person's mother had started using the product and this person had started using the product, this person's life had completely changed. And he walked up to me and shook my hand, a nonverbal person, and said, "Miss Alicia, I'm so glad that you found this product." And it was at that moment that I realized the divine appointment. If I had not ever faced that test of the health battle that I went through, this person would have never received the victory in their life years later. And all of those nights when I went to bed at night crying out, "God, why me?" I know now it's because of that test that I now have a little bit of a platform. that I get to share my testimony that gets to help other people in so many areas of their life. And so it's so important. So thanks for bringing that up.
No, thank you. And I think that's a perfect ending to the webinar day. We're just coming up at the top of the hour, but thank you so much for your willingness to share with us today. It is clear that you have a gift and a talent in sharing LifeWave naturally, and of course, the number of people that you've been able to help over the years, especially just that last one you shared just now, is definitely heart touching and is so impactful. So thank you for everything you are and everything you've become, by being here at LifeWave, and of course and being willing to share into our team, and the LifeWave family here today. It's been an absolute pleasure spending this time with you.
Thank you for asking me. And it was great seeing you last week. And we'll see you in Dallas in a few weeks.
Yes, look forward to that as well. All right, and thank you everyone else who's been on the webinar with us today. We thank you so much for the time and effort and putting your in here and your questions and everything else. It does make a difference. So thank you, and we'll look forward to catching up with you all again next month on our LifeWave Connect Business webinar. Take care for now.
Bye, you guys.